Hey guys, welcome to Algos Explained. My name is David Kim, and today we're going to go over a question that is fairly common. It is going through an array of words and outputting another array of words, but only keeping all the palindromes. And so, what's a palindrome? It is a word that is spelled the same forward and backwards. So, if we take the word Anna, for example, A, N, and A, it is spelled the same way forwards and backwards, and so that's just what makes it a palindrome. Um, if it's an odd number of letters, like civic, it's still the same. It might be a little different when we check against it, but pretty much, as long as it's forward and backwards the same, it makes it a palindrome. And our output simply wants us to go through something like this and take out any words that are not palindromes, which in this case, tech. That is not a palindrome, so our output would just be this whole array minus tech. But for this problem, we're not going to mutate it. We're going to create a separate array. Um, yeah. And so if we make a kind of a game plan for this guy, what the steps that we need to take are: one, we need to go through all the words and then check if they're palindromes, and then we need to put them in our new array data structure. And so for the questions like this, it has a couple of steps to it. I like to break it apart and use what we call helper functions. That will keep our original function very clean, and it helps to kind of separate things, like separate what methods or what functions are doing, and therefore later when there's a problem, it'll be easier to debug. And so let's call this function find palindromes. So let find, and let's just call it pallies. And we're going to get an array of words, so we'll call that word array. And this is JavaScript, by the way. And what we're going to have to do, like we said, step one is pretty much we're going to have to iterate through that input array and then find out whether it's a palindrome or not. We know that we're going to have to insert it into another array that we're going to output later. So let's go ahead and create that data structure. And let's call these all pallies. And this will be an array. And so what's going to happen here, we're going to use a for loop to go through all of those words. Word array, oops, no. It's not it. 0. And I is less than word array dot length. No. Oh man. Sorry about that. I'm making mistakes on a simple for loop, but it happens. And if this happens to you during an interview, don't let it get to you, because small mistakes do happen. And so, okay, iterating through this word array, and pretty much if it's a palindrome, we're going to insert it into the all pallies array. And so this is where you can decide, okay, whether I'm going to use a helper function or not. I do like to use helper functions because it'll make it very clean. It'll make it easier to debug. So say after you're done with this whole thing and you run your code, or your interviewer says, okay, if we were to run your code, you would probably end up putting all the words. And so in that case, that means that you're kind of checking whether it's a palindrome wrong. If they say after we run this code, potentially you might not have touched everything, then the problem would have been in this for loop. And so if you separate it out, it'll be a lot easier to kind of, once you know what the problem is, kind of go and snipe the problem and get the right answer. And so we're gonna use a helper function. We're gonna pretend that we already have one called isPally, which will tell us whether the word is a palindrome or not. And so pretty much we'll just do if isPally, and it'll take an input of the word. So we're going to do word array of I, because that will represent the word we're at. So if that is true, and so this function will return a boolean. If that is true, we're going to do all pallies dot push, and we're going to put in that word array of I. Gotcha. And if not, we're just going to ignore it. So we'll just continue on with the for loop. And at the end, we're going to return all Pallies. And so if this is Pally function would work correctly, then let me step over here real quick. If that works correctly, then all we have to do is, or pretty much if that works, then this one's already done. We know that all we need to do is make sure the word of the palindrome, then we will get it pushed into the array. The array is added in there. The only thing this little piece of code is worried about is whether we're hitting all of the words inside the input array, and it definitely does that. So at this point, we can move on to creating the isPally function. And what we'll do it right over here, like that. And so we'll do let, and I'm gonna stand on this side again. Let isPally. And so this one will take in a word, like we decided over here, and it'll return a Boolean. And so we'll just call it word. And so how do we decide whether it's a palindrome or not? Well, I think the easiest way is to just iterate through the words, through each letter, and kind of compare it against the last one. There are different ways to do it. You could cut half of it, flip it, test it against the second half, or something like that. A lot of different ways. I'm just going to go with iterating through it. And so we're going to create another for loop equals 0, and I is less than word.length, I plus plus. All right, cool. And so once we're iterating through that, we're just going to make sure is it equal to the corresponding letter, kind of mirroring it on the other side. And so, and since we want to return true if it passes all of the little comparisons, we'll just return false. Instead of returning true or anything, we'll return false if it doesn't meet the criteria, and then at that point we'll be able to exit early. And so do if, let's see, if word of I, so that'll be the current letter we're on, is not equal to, so if it's not equal to something, we'll exit early. And so kind of how we're going to know what exactly to put on here is, well, we know that it's going to be a word of something, and if we're looking at Anna, that's 0, 1, 2, 3, the indexes, and word I equals 0, and we want to have some computation equal to 3, so we know we could use word.length, and so that's going to be 4, and so we can do, let's see, word.length minus or plus 1. Do word.length, was it plus 1? I had it written down here somewhere. Minus I plus 1. Minus I plus 1. There we go. And so when we have I is 0, then we'll have word.length is 4. 4 minus 1, which will be 3. If I were to have been 1, if we did word.length, so 4 minus I would have been 1 plus 1, that would be 2, which would have been the corresponding 2 right there. So that is what we want. We want word.length minus I plus 1. Word.length minus I plus 1. I'll remove this. Minus I plus 1. And you do need the parentheses there because we want the order of operations to add that first and then subtract it against the word.length. So pretty much if that is wrong, so pretty much if they looked at an A and they found a different letter over here, we want it to exit early, so we will just return false here. And at the end, what we'll do is return true. Return true. And that's all we need to do for this. Or actually, wait, put this in the wrong place. That's the if statement, close out the for loop, and then we return true at the very end. Okay, cool. So that is complete. That's our answer. Let's go ahead and test in a segment. So let's test the isPally first, and then kind of see kind of once we guarantee that this is working, we could run through this real quick. And so is Pally. Let's check Civic and let's check Tech. So Civic, and we'll do it right over here. Hopefully that's still in a good spot for you guys. If we do Civic, let's see. So Civic, and this is just index numbers. So we'll go here, and we know that this should be returning true, so we should be doing this the whole way. And so let's see. I have 0, so I equals 0 right now. So we're comparing the C. C does not equal to word.length, so that is going to be a length of 5. I don't know if I'm blocking or not. So that's going to be 5 minus 0 plus 1, so that's going to be 4. So that's comparing to the C. I is going to be 1, and so it's going to be 5 minus 2, so that's 3. So that's I. So it's kind of confusing now. There's I there, index, and there's letter I's. But I'm pretty sure you guys trust that this works now, so we're not going to do all these computations anymore. Once we get to the middle letter, we are going to do that again. I would have been 2, and 5 minus 3 would have been 2. One thing I am seeing is that once we get to the 3, what happens there? 5 minus I plus 1. That's 3 plus 1. That's going to be 4. That's going to be 1. And so we're doing these again. And so we can definitely optimize for that. Because once we check the halfway point, why would we want to check the other half? Because we know that if it passes the first half, it's definitely going to pass the second half again, or second half. And so we want to complete this only until word.length over 2. And for that, we definitely want to floor it, because we will get some kind of decimal point if we don't. And so what we're going to do is math.floor. We're going to do word.length over 2. And what is that? Oh, I plus plus. And so that will guarantee that if it was 5 over 2, it will give us only 2. And so that's good, because we only want to get to kind of that point. And so we know that that works. Let's quickly check it for Tech. And this is going to be a lot faster, because we're going to be checking that letter against that letter. If you can trust me that it will look at both ends, we already know that it's not going to work out, so we'll return false for a letter or a word such as Tech. And so if we can move on to over here, pretty much all that's happening is we're going through the for loop. We're going through something like this. And first, we're going to be looking at the first one, Anna. Is it a palindrome? Yes. Then we'll push it into this array. We're going to look at Tech next. And is it a palindrome? Because we'll go through here. No. And so we'll just ignore the if, because that'll be false, and we'll just continue on. We'll move to race car. That'll be true. Civic and pop. That'll be true. And so in the end, you'll have an array of something that looks like this minus the Tech, and you'll have your answer. And so that is how you do this question, going through an array, finding all the palindromes. I think the concept wasn't hard. I think if you have something like this that seems like a multi-step problem, the important thing to take away from this this video is definitely split it up, use helper functions, because you could totally have put this chunk right in here. Like, instead of this if statement, you could have done this whole thing right there, but it looks a lot cleaner this way if you split it up, and I can almost guarantee you your interviewer will appreciate it also, because they probably have an idea of how to solve it in their head, and if it's different than if your method is different from what they're expecting you to do, definitely you doing it clean is going to be a big help for them. And when they're happy, that's a good thing. And so hopefully you enjoyed this episode. If you liked the video, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have problems that you want me to do, email me at algosexplained@gmail.com. I do weekly videos on Sundays, and so if you can get a question into me um, before Sunday, I probably get to it. And of course, these videos aren't just to get the answer. It is to help you understand it more. Uh, Say a situation comes where you have to explain it, to really be able to confidently help you guys explain the question and your solutions also. Because I mean, the answers are online. All these questions that you might want to ask me, they're online. So um, the answers are there, but sometimes the explanations aren't good. And that's where I hope to come in to kind of help you really understand the explanation of things. And so thanks for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.